Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top teams and players to target in Game Week 8 on Sun Dream Team. So we're going to start with the European club fixtures. Man City are going to have a home game against Manchester United in the derby, and then they'll be home against Copenhagen as well in the Champions League. It's the North London derby as well that weekend, so you've got Spurs versus Arsenal at the Emirates, and then Spurs will also have Frankfurt in the Champions League that week. Chelsea will be away to Crystal Palace and then home to AC Milan. Liverpool will be at home to Brighton and then home to Rangers. So that's two quite good fixtures for them. Arsenal, of course, in the North London derby as well. So that's at the Emirates. And then they'll be at home to Bodo Glimt as well. Man United will be away to City at the Etihad and then Nicosia in the Europa League. And then you've got West Ham, who will be facing Wolves at home and Anderlecht away. So I've just taken some notes on those games to see how to sort of approach picking my team, if there's any changes I need to make. I think both games are going to be winnable for City. You're not going to take City players out for either of those. I've said it's going to be two winnable games where they're going to be favourites. And obviously pretty much everyone's got Haaland. I've got De Bruyne in most of my teams as well. And all of your City defensive assets should be safe for these ones. I think Manchester United are going to change the way they play and be quite defensive and look to hit on the counter, a bit like what they did against Arsenal. I can't see them playing out against City. They'll get destroyed with the press. So I think it's going to be quite a counter-attacking side from Man United, and City should do well in that game. They can always break down a low block. And then the North London derby. I've just said that I think this game could go either way, to be honest. I expect there to be quite a few goals. I know for a fact as an Arsenal fan that Son and Kane always seem to fill their boots against Arsenal. So I'm still a bit nervous about it, to be honest, but we'll see how that one goes. And then you've got Frankfurt away in the Champions League. Obviously, it should be a winnable game for Spurs, but they didn't do too well against Sporting in the last round. And it's going to be a tough game again at the Emirates, so how fatigued they are, we're not too sure. But I expect Spurs to win, but it could be quite a difficult game for them. And then Chelsea, I'm still not too sure what to expect under Graham Potter. We saw the way they lined up in the last game. A bit controversial. They dropped Fofana, they dropped Koulibaly, and they went with more of an experienced backline. Cucurella stayed in, who Potter knows quite well. But I think they had Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta in the back line. So they're probably going to keep that sort of five at the back. But then they had Sterling as, I wouldn't call it a left wing back completely, but he was playing in that sort of position where Trossard plays. It's the left wing back role, but he was so far forward. So Sterling could be quite good as an option in that new lineup. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, not 100% sure on what sort of lineup we'll expect, but yeah, we'll wait and see how that one goes, and then you can pick your team accordingly. But I think Palace away is a tough game, but it is winnable for them. And then they'll be facing AC Milan in the Champions League. And I had a little look, and I think Milan had conceded conceded in their last 5 games, and they weren't very good at keeping clean sheets. So that could be quite a good one if you're looking to add like a Sterling to your side, or if you've got more attacking assets, like even Reece James. He's going to be quite a popular pick for Chelsea. So hopefully there should be goals in it for Chelsea. But I'm still not sure whether or not we can expect Chelsea to keep a clean sheet. I've had Fofana and I've also had Cucurella in quite a few teams. But the clean sheets just haven't been coming. So if we can get one, that'd be great. But I'm still not completely sure that we'll be able to get one in that game. Then Liverpool, I've said Liverpool probably got the best 2 fixtures, which it's not great because a lot of people have been removing the Liverpool players from their dream teams, but I think this is the best 2 fixtures in this game week. So they've got Brighton at home, and then Brighton under a new manager as well. So we're still not sure what to expect from them, whether or not it'll be more of the same. But yeah, I think Liverpool should have too much for them at home. And then obviously you've got Rangers as well, who've been pretty poor in Europe so far as well. So I think Liverpool should have far too much for both of them, but they've been unreliable this season. I mean, we all started with Trent, we all started with Salah, and it's been quite disappointing so far. I've kept Salah in most of my teams, but I know a lot of people have lost patience already. And if you started with a Liverpool block or any sort of Liverpool defenders, their value has crashed. So yeah, it's not been great. But if you still have got them, I think it's a great 2 games for them. And I probably would look to bring some players in if you haven't got them. But yeah, I've still got Salah, so I'm hoping he can start scoring for this one. And then the Arsenal game, I kind of covered it when I spoke about Spurs, but yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. I've got Saliba in most of my teams, and I think quite a lot of people will have at least one Arsenal defender, but I'm not confident about the clean sheet in this game. So we'll see, but I expect Arsenal probably will concede. But I still think they've got more than enough to score, especially at home as well, with Saka, Jesus, Martinelli as well, so they could score in that game, so there still could be points in it. And then the Bodo Glimt game, I think there'll be quite a bit of rotation in that game. I was looking at the previous game in the Europa League, and I think what they'll do is they'll probably keep at least one of the main centre backs. They'll bring Rob Holding in, but I think the last game they played Gabriel, but you could quite easily see Saliba played 2 games in 1 week, or Ben White might come in at centre back. And then the other position, sort of in that front three, Eddie Nketiah is pretty much nailed to get the Europa League games as centre forward. But you've got Marquinhos, seems like he's playing on the right wing. But that left wing slot, there isn't really anyone to rotate. So they're probably likely going to either start Martinelli again, or they might rotate a little bit to have either Jesus on the wing or Saka on the wing, just to see whoever's the fittest at the time will probably get 2 games. So Man United have got a very tough game against Man City. If they're going to get anything from the game, I think it's going to be on the counter-attack. They've done quite well against Arsenal by counter-attacking. They kept quite deep, kept their shape, and then they had sort of Anthony, Rashford and Sancho going in behind. So I think that is a way they can hurt City. So I do think they can score in this game. They could get goals, but City are really good at breaking down that low block, unlike how Arsenal were in that game. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Man United. I'd avoid bringing any players in specifically, obviously, for this game week. But if you've already got them, you could probably stick with them. I wouldn't look to transfer anyone out just because they're playing against Man City. It helps that they've got quite a good game in the Europa League. So Nicosia, I can't imagine that they're going to cause many problems for Man United. So if you can try and choose someone that's going to potentially play both games, it could be worth it. I don't think in the Europa League last time they rotated very much. I think they kept Martinez and Varane for that game, I believe. I know they brought Maguire on for the last few minutes. But yeah, if you can get someone that will play both, maybe Martinez, it could offset it. If they can get a clean sheet in one game, it might offset the damage that they could sustain from the City game. So yeah, we'll see about that one. But I mean, if you wanted to be really brave, you could get an attacking asset and hope to target both. But for now, I think I would just avoid bringing in any Man United players for that game week. So West Ham have got the home game against Wolves, and then they've got an away game to Anderlecht. So I've put down that I think they could have potential for 1 or 2 clean sheets that week. It's a tough one because the fixtures are good, but West Ham have been so bad so far. They find themselves at the bottom of the Premier League, or not rock bottom, but they're in the relegation zone at the minute. But I mean, they've got a good squad, so if they can sort of pick up a bit of form, Wolves have been pretty toothless in attack. So as long as they can keep solid in this one, they could keep a clean sheet against Wolves. And then that Anderlecht away game is going to be quite tough. They're one of the best sides in the Belgian league, but yeah, it's a tough one. But I think they should still be able to get at least 1 clean sheet in that week. And then if you stick with some of the West Ham players, their fixtures massively improve from now all the way up to the World Cup as well. So it could be worth taking a punt on maybe 1 defender from West Ham, or even 1 attacking asset. We'll go on to that, but I think Paqueta and Bowen could be good options to capitalise on this good run of fixtures. So yeah, I think if we can look for 1 clean sheet, that could be a good return on those 2 games. But yeah, it would mean that West Ham really do need to pick up their form. So I've put the fixtures for the European sides in order of who I think's got the best fixtures, and then named a few of the players that I think could be the best ones to target. So I think Liverpool have probably got the best fixtures with Brighton and then Rangers. Rangers have been pretty shocking so far in the Champions League. So I think if you've stuck with Salah, I think I'd keep him for these 2, because if he can't score against Brighton, he can't score against Rangers. Seriously, then I think that could be the last straw for him. Start using some of your value elsewhere. Diaz is a good option. If you've already taken Salah out, Diaz is a good option to try and pick up some of those points. It looks like Klopp does favour him on the left-hand side. Jota's back, but Diaz is still playing most games. And then Trent, obviously, the clean sheets haven't been coming, but he is getting those attacking numbers. Obviously done really well against Bournemouth. I think he got a couple of assists and a goal in that one. And he's 5.6 now as well, which is quite a big decrease. I think him and Cancelo started on the same, and now they've really split apart. So Cancelo's at 7.6 and Trent's all the way down at 5.6. So yeah, it's quite a big difference. And I've put for Liverpool though, I would still avoid Jota and Darwin, for me anyway, just because I think that they're going to be quite a big rotation risk. I think Diaz seems to be holding his place, which means Jota, if he's going to play, he's going to play through the middle. And if Darwin's not on form, they're going to be both challenging each other. So yeah, I wouldn't go with either Jota or Darwin for now. But Salah, Diaz and Trent, the obvious picks really, but with these two fixtures, hopefully they can come good. And then City, with City, it's nothing new. I think you just want to look at the nailed premiums. So Haaland, if you haven't got him already, you're going to be really struggling in your leagues and with your points. But yeah, Haaland at 8.7 is a ridiculous price, but he's doing so well. And I've got KDB and Haaland in quite a lot of my teams. KDB's gone up to 7.5, but I mean, if out of this three, Haaland, De Bruyne and Cancelo, if you could have two in your team, I think that's a really good start. And I've just highlighted some cheaper assets from Man City because to fit Haaland, KDB and Cancelo is just so difficult with the budget. So I've picked up Foden, Diaz and Stones. I think they're probably the most nailed players that are not those free premiums. So if you can maybe get two and then fit one of those, you might be okay. I've got Kyle Walker. I'm just waiting to see what happened with him. I resisted taking him out, which meant I had him for a couple games where he did nothing. It wasn't even in the squad. But I didn't know how bad the injury was. And he's just played for England as well. So I'm hoping he comes back in. So I think he's around 4 mil. So you could add Walker to that list. Anyone else, though, it's a bit of a rotation risk. You've got Akanji's doing well. You've also got Ake, who's an option. And you've got Gomez as well on the cheaper side. But I just wouldn't guarantee they're going to play every game. So you want to, for me, I want to choose the players that are going to be playing most games for City. And then moving on to Arsenal. So obviously they've got the North London derby. But I think they've got two better fixtures than, well, not two better fixtures because they're playing Spurs. But I think they've got the European fixture is better for Arsenal. We've got Saliba at 3 million, who's gone up from 2.5 so far, and he's been brilliant. I think 2 goals and an assist already. He's doing really well on the points. That's who I'd pick out as the Arsenal defender if you haven't got already to get. Gabriel Jesus has been brilliant since he signed. He's 5.7. And Saka, everyone was a bit concerned at first because he wasn't getting those attacking returns, but he seems to be firing now. And 4.1 is still a decent price for him. So yeah, I think any of those three are the best ones to target. And then I'll just mention some differentials from Arsenal. If you do lose patience with some of your strikers, if you've got the big front three of, Haaland, Kane and Salah, for example, and you did want to downgrade and put some value somewhere else, Martinelli at 3.3 is still quite a steal, I think, in my eyes. And then you've got budget to use elsewhere. Or Fabio Vieira, I'd still keep an eye on him because, Ødegaard was injured. I'm not sure if he still is, but he's obviously scored in his debut start against Brentford. It's quite a screamer, that one. And I think he'll definitely get the Europa League games. So if Ødegaard's out, it looks like Vieira will start in the Premier League in his place, but he's also got the European fixtures that are against clubs that Arsenal should be beating, even with their rotated side. So 3.2 is not a bad shout for a midfielder. But yeah, and then on to Spurs. Kane, obvious one. Son, he was getting quite a concern for people that had chose him. You'd be gutted if you took him out before the hat-trick, but he was looking at rotation risk with Richarlison doing well and Kulusevski doing well as well. Obviously, Son was benched, but coming on and then scoring a hat-trick would be gutting if you had already taken him out. But yeah, 5.8, I think he's proved his point that he doesn't like being dropped and he's still dangerous as ever. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he scored against Arsenal. And then I've put Hugo Lloris in there as a player to target because, I mean, he's a fitness doubt at the moment. I think he got left out of the France squad due to injury, but I've got him in both my two top teams. And at 3.5, I just think he was one of the cheaper options for Spurs. I think Dyer was kind of in the 4 mil category. I think that was a bit too much to pay for a centre-back. So 3.5 Lloris, he's pretty much nailed to get the Champions League and the Premier League games, just as long as he is fit. But I think at 3.5, out of all the European keepers, he was kind of the cheapest one to target, but also with more or less on the better defences. And then I've just mentioned Richarlison, Kulusevski. I'm not sure if I'd want to go near him now because I had Kulusevski to start with, and he started really strong, but then he tailed off a little bit. Richarlison took his place. I then took Kulusevski out, and then he started scoring. I think he got an assist or scored a goal, got an attack in return. So he's going to be quite a frustrating one. I think it's either you stick with him and keep him, or you just don't go there with him and Richarlison because it's going to get quite frustrating when they're rotating together. And then I've added Sessegnon as a more of a budget pick at 2.4. I listened to the Dream Team Tonic podcast, and I think a lot of the guys there have been shouting about Sessegnon. I wasn't feeling it at first, but yeah, now I saw it from the start. So the first few games, he was just coming on for the last few minutes and picking up the clean sheet points. Even if he was playing for sort of 10 minutes, he was still coming on and stealing the points for the clean sheet. So it's not like FPL where you have to be playing a certain amount of time to get the clean sheet points. If you get brought on and your team's getting a clean sheet, automatically you're getting the 5 points. So I think it is worth it. If you're looking for more of a budget pick, Sessegnon is a good one, and he does still start quite a few games. So yeah, I'm fully convinced now that he is a really good option at 2.4, and obviously he started a bit cheaper than that. Then on to Chelsea. So again, it's pretty obvious picks I've gone with, just because with Graham Potter, we're still not sure how they're going to line up. But Sterling, James and Cucurella, they look like the more nailed players to start. Sterling is playing on that sort of left wing / left wing back position in that first game, but he was still playing so high up. He wasn't doing that much defending at all, so you don't have to worry about his attack and returns being diminished. And then Reece James as well was still playing quite high up. Cucurella was actually playing in more of a back three, but he was still getting forward, still getting crosses in. And what I like about Cucurella, he seems to be, I didn't notice at the time when they brought him in, but he's taken quite a lot of free kicks and corners as well. So at 3 mil, I still think he's a really good option in that Chelsea team. But they just need to start keeping clean sheets. I think I heard in the Premier League that Bournemouth had kept more clean sheets than Chelsea, which I haven't fact-checked it, but if it is true, that's a crazy stat, really. They need to be improving there. And then Fofana, 2.9, I just wanted to put him down there because he's been a bit of a disappointment, really, because I thought at 3 mil he'd be a really good pick. And he's gone down to 2.9 now, but the fact that he was left out in the last game is put a big question mark above him for me. But I can't imagine they paid that sort of money for him and then they're going to leave him benched. The same with Koulibaly. So I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually do see a move to sort of Cucurella, Fofana and Koulibaly maybe. But obviously we have got Thiago Silva as well, so something has got to give there. Just depends whether they move Cucurella out to left wing back. But yeah, I've got a question mark above Fofana for now. We'll see how they line up the next game, but I might end up taking him out of my team. Then Man United, I still haven't seen that much of Anthony, but he looked really good against Arsenal. We didn't get to see the Anthony spin, but yeah, every time he got the ball, he was looking to beat a man, looking to get forward, and I think he took quite a lot of shots as well. I was looking at his stats for last season at Ajax, and he was having about 3 shots per game, something like that. So yeah, I think that could be a good pick there, but obviously I probably wouldn't bring him in just ahead of the Man City game, but he is someone that we'd look to target probably long term. And then Dalot at 2.6, still, if he's going to be the starting right back, which Wan-Bissaka doesn't seem like he's getting anywhere near the team at the minute. So Dalot at 2.6, he's got good deliveries, good crossing, so he could pick up some points. And then Sancho at 3.5 I've put down as well, because he just seems to be playing most of the games at the moment. And he does get attacking returns usually, but yeah, I'm not sure if this is the week for it, but I've put him in there. A couple of other ones, these are a bit more far out, but Eriksen at 2.8, he is playing deeper, but he's still getting quite a lot of the ball, quite a lot of passing, and he's more attacking still in that position. Although he's playing deeper, he's still doing a lot of the build-up and playing quite a few through balls as well. Obviously I think he got the assist in the Arsenal game, and then you've got Ronaldo at 5.5 mil, which is ridiculously cheap, but we know he's not starting every game. But if you're feeling dangerous, it could be a punt if Rashford's out. I'm looking more at the Europa League games, though. I know it seems ridiculous, but if Ronaldo's playing against a team like Nicosia, he could quite easily get a haul in that game. So it could be worth a punt. If you've just got an extra transfer that you're willing to take a punt on, he could be an option. And then West Ham, they've got a really good run of fixtures coming up. I'll see if I can bring them up on the next slide. But yeah, West Ham, Bowen at 4.1. He started at 4.5, I think it was, after his really good season last year. But he hasn't delivered so far. But I always sort of did say at that point, if he could come down in price to around the 4 million mark, I would still like to take a punt on him, I think, at some point in the season. And with their fixtures looking really good from sort of now up until the World Cup, I think now's the time to do it if you're going to bring him in. Paqueta is a cheaper option at 2.6. Obviously, their big signing of the summer. He was getting some good attacking returns at Lyon, so yeah, I would look to bring him in or take a punt on him if you're looking for someone more of a budget enabler in the middle. He could be a good option. And then you've got Kurt Zuma and Kufau. I've just put as defensive options. I think them two are the probably most nailed in defence. And 2.3 and 2.2, they give you quite a bit of room to spend elsewhere in your team, and with 2 games a week as well, it's quite good value, I think, just as long as their form picks up. And I've just highlighted some of the non-European club fixtures. I've picked these 3. I think these 3 teams: Brentford, Newcastle, and Leicester. And I've put if you dare, because we've seen what they've been like in defence. But Brentford, Newcastle and Leicester, I think, have got the best fixtures coming up for teams that are not playing in Europe. So Brentford in that Gameweek 8 game are playing against Bournemouth. And then they've been following on with Newcastle away and Brighton at home. So I've got Mbuemo in a couple of my teams, and he's been doing okay. He's picking up quite a few points still, for his price point at least. And then Ivan Toney, obviously, I think he got the hat-trick at one point, and he's doing pretty well. And I put Hickey in there as more of a budget option, that if you're trying to save a bit of money or you've not got much to play around with, he could be an option there in defence. He gets forward quite a bit as well, so it could be an option. Newcastle, in Game Week 8, they've got Fulham away. So their defence has been pretty good, Newcastle. Especially Trippier is someone that I would look at. He's just on everything. The corners, free kicks, getting assists. So he could be quite dangerous against Fulham. And, well, at the time of recording this, yesterday Mitrovic played in the internationals, and there's rumours that Mitrovic could be injured. So, yeah, if that is the case, then the defensive assets of Newcastle are looking even better. But, yeah, Fulham away in Game Week 8, and then they follow up with Brentford at home, Man United away. They've got Isaac playing up front. He scored a pen in the last game, and he's looking quite dangerous. And then I've just put Almiron in there. He's quite a frustrating player, but he's so cheap on the game that if you're just looking to fill a cheap slot in your team as an enabler, you could look at Almiron there as a budget pick. Then Leicester. It's a risky one if you do want to go with them, but if you do it, I've said you have to go with more of attacking assets. You don't want to be touching their defence at the moment. They're rock bottom. I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan Rodgers ends up sacked. I don't really know what's going on there at all, to be honest. But they're playing Forest at home in Game Week 8. And their attacking players, specifically Maddison, are still looking quite good. So yeah, if you're playing against Forest at home and then they've got Bournemouth away, which that's two really good fixtures back to back, I'd look at Maddison, I'd look at Barnes, maybe Jamie Vardy, but he hasn't been on it this season, and there is a rotation risk now with Daka and Iñárritu. And I've put Dewsbury Hall as well down as more of a cheap enabler in the midfield. But yeah, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds and Wolves are some good fixtures. So if they're going to recover, it's got to be now, really. But yeah, highlight that. No defenders. Don't put any Leicester defenders in, and especially don't put Danny Ward in the goal. So for October planning, obviously we've got this game week 8, where we'll have the 2 fixtures for the European sides, or the 1 for the non-European. And then after that, Friday the 7th of October, that's when you'll get the new transfers to use during October. And then they have got to last you until Friday the 4th of November, so just before game week 13. And then I just had a look at how many fixtures between sort of now game week 8 and then the end of game week 12 before you get the November fixtures. And there's quite a big difference between the European teams and the non-European teams again, where there's a condensed Europa League, Champions League, with the World Cup coming ahead. So the European teams are still quite favourable in terms of fixtures. So the European teams are going to be playing from game week 8 all the way through to game week 12. Most of them are going to be playing 10 games from now until the November transfers. Man City are going to have 9. The reason they've got 9 is because the Arsenal City game was postponed. So they'll have 9, and the rest of the teams, so you know, your Arsenal, your Spurs, Chelsea, the rest of them, they're all going to have 10, so 1 extra game. If you compare that to the non-European sides, they're only going to have 6 in the same sort of time. So you've got another, you know, if you go with mostly a European team, you're going to get almost like 4 games more. So that's just one thing to consider when you're trying to plan your team for the next month or so. You want to get as many European teams in there as you can, in my opinion, just to capitalise on the extra games. Just an update on how my top team are doing at the minute. So I've got 391 points. The game week just gone, I got 44 points. Overall is 47.5k, which I'm not particularly happy about, but it's still early on, so we can recover that. And I've got 2 transfers left. So just a recap at the minute. So Lloris got us 2 points. Saliba got 18 points, which was a really good one. He got the goal, the clean sheet, and the star man in that game. Walker, like I said, I kept with him anyway, even though he was injured, just because I think I'm going to end up wanting to bring him back if he turns out to be recovered. So, and he played for England, so I am expecting him to come back in. So I'm not regretting changing him around. But yeah, I did get punished a little bit with the Liverpool and Chelsea game getting called off. So I had Cucurella, Sterling, Elliott and Salah that didn't play. But these are players, apart from Elliott, these are players that I want to keep sort of for the following week. So I didn't want to take them out. And I assumed most people would be in the same boat there with the cancellations. Emerson Royale, I'd only just bought him in, so I was quite disappointed with their performance against Leicester. I bought him in actually ahead of the Sporting game, which was horrible because I brought him in and it looked like it was going to be a great move. I thought he was going to get the clean sheet, and I think he was even getting a +7, but then they went and conceded 2 right at the end, and yeah, he ended up on minus points I think last week as well, so that was pretty rubbish. De Bruyne had a really good game, happy to keep him. Elliott's been pretty disappointing actually. I thought he'd be a good enabler in that midfield, but obviously that game was called off, but he's not done well for me so far. Sterling, I'm happy to stick with him. Kane got me to 10 points against Leicester. I was happy with that. Salah didn't play, and Haaland is just looking brilliant. Every game he's getting returns at the minute. So yeah, not a terrible week, but yeah, we're not where we want to be overall, but I'm sure we can work on that one. And then so just taking a look at what fixtures these players have coming up and who I might look to move on. I'm quite happy with Lloris, just as long as he's not injured. We're going to have to wait and see. That could throw a spanner in the works for me for this one. Saliba I'm going to keep. I think I'm keeping Walker, and I'm happy with Cucurella as well. De Bruyne's good, Sterling's good, but Elliott, well, I'll probably give him this game week 8 because Brighton and Rangers, there's a good chance he might start at least one of those games, and there's a chance for an attacking return, but he isn't very clinical so far for them. Sterling I'm happy with, and then Kane, Salah, Haaland, that if anything it's probably too good up there. It's weakening in other areas of the team, but for this game week I'm happy to stick with it. And then if I'm going to downgrade Salah, it'll probably be if he blanks in these 2 games. But potential changes, 2 transfers left. I'd probably be looking to move out Emerson Royale, Elliott, or Lloris if it's an injury. But yeah, I'm not sure at this point who I might change. I was having a little look who I could take out and put in. I mean, if I took out Emerson Royale and Harvey Elliott, for example, I could bring in Kufal and Ericsson, but I'm still not convinced that they're going to really outscore them. Kufal, I think he's got the potential there for a clean sheet, but if Emerson Royale does play, although he's been disappointing, there's a chance that he does get 1 clean sheet maybe in that game week. So I don't think it's worth it yet. I might just stick with this side for 1 more game week. As long as Lloris does play, I could stick with it, use these 2 transfers to prepare for October. So yeah, we'll wait and see how that one goes. I'll probably wait till the lineups are out before deciding on any changes. And then I've got my top team. I'm going to try and fill you in on my top team each week, but then I'm going to keep this one in there as well. So mini league team. This one I've got entered in the Dream Team Tonic Cash League. So yeah, I'm giving away some secrets here, but I'm going to fill you in on the team anyway. So again, Lloris, it's the same boat for him. Fofana, that's a disappointment because yeah, if he isn't playing in that next fixture, I'm probably going to have to look to move him on. Saliba again, no problem. Cucurella, and I just mentioned Emerson Royale. It's the same for this team. We'll wait and see how he does. De Bruyne, I'm completely happy with. Gundogan, it's been a bit disappointing. He started really well, and I had him for the games where he was scoring points. But now it looks like doesn't look like he is staying. Bernardo Silva was a bit of a risk to go to Barcelona at one point, and it seemed like Gundogan was getting his minutes. But now there's quite a bit of rotation there for that slot. But I'll probably give him this game week as well to see how he does. And Mbeumo, he's been doing okay. He didn't get any points against Arsenal, but with Brentford having a good run of games, I think he's still a good option in there. Definitely a better enabler than Harvey Elliott has been for me so far. And then I've got the same front line again, Kane, Salah, Haaland, and I'm happy to stay with them just as long as they are delivering. But yeah, looking into October, the only thing I might look to do is if Salah is not picking up his points, I could look to get Salah out and bring Cancelo in at some point. But in this team, I've only got 1 transfer. So if I'm going to make any transfer in this team, it's either going to be Lloris. It's going to be Lloris if he is injured, or I'd again look at Emerson Royale or Fofana if they're not picked for the next game. Who I'll choose with that 1 transfer. I had a look. Say Fofana doesn't play the next game and he's dropped again. I'd probably look to either bring in Kurt Zouma, because West Ham have got 2 fairly good fixtures, or I could change the formation and bring in a midfielder. So I could take Fofana out for either Ericsson, Jorginho. Jorginho, I do like to choose him just because he's got that sort of penalty aspect of it, so he can pick up some points there. Or Paqueta as well from West Ham, the new signing. I think he could do quite well in his next 2 fixtures. So yeah, they're my options, but again, it's going to be waiting to see what the lineups do before making any changes with this one. But yeah, this team, total points 382, and then 67.6k is again not where I'd like to be. But it's early on. There's not very many points separating the overall scores at the minute. So yeah, we'll give it to the after the World Cup before we start getting worried about where our rank is, and then we'll see where we are from there. And that wraps up the first episode. So thanks for watching and listening. I'm going to hope to put these out on a weekly basis, just previewing the next lot of fixtures, giving some tips on who I think the best picks will be for the following week, and then just giving you a little update on how my team's doing. So yeah, thanks for watching and good luck in Game Week 8.